This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's tax season, and we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now here's a good number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This podcast contains adult themes and language, and some of the things that we discuss may be disturbing to some listeners. In this podcast, we discuss sexual assault, torture, race, and murder. Listener discretion is advised. Please take care of yourself.
So now we're going to get into the early life of Paul Merhige and hit it, Beth.
Paul Michael Merhige was born in September 1974 to Michael and Carol Merhige. His grandparents on his father's side were Syrian. We're unsure of Carol's ancestry. When Paul was 2 years old, his mother gave birth to twin sisters Carla and Lisa.
Growing up, Paul was described as the family's golden boy. He was a star athlete in multiple sports, including baseball, soccer, and football, and he also did well academically, even leading the French Honor Society at Gulliver Prep, his expensive private school.
Yeah, his family was pretty well off.
Yeah.
They were very well off.
Yeah. More on that later.
Yeah. As a teenager, he was described as personable, driven, and mature. He was friendly and well-liked, attended parties and dances, so pretty normal. And he graduated third in his class, so intelligent.
Oh, yeah. Smarty pants.
Yeah. He devoted his senior yearbook page to his family, thanking his parents and all 32 members of his extended family, saying, quote, "I love you now and will forever," unquote.
To his twin sisters, Lisa and Carla, he wrote, quote, "I have been so lucky to be blessed with having twin sisters and being your protective older brother," unquote.
After graduating from high school, Paul attended the University of Miami as an honors student. He had plans of becoming a doctor. But at the age of 19, he had a nervous breakdown and began a lifelong battle with severe depression and obsessive-compulsive disorder.
When Paul was 20, he dropped out of college and became completely dependent on his family. He became a recluse. He suffered from insomnia. He bathed and shaved repeatedly. I think one source said sometimes he would bathe for hours, like up to 5 hours at a time.
Jeez.
And he struggled to make decisions and was unable to hold a job. Eventually, he was deemed legally disabled.
He wrote of his own condition, quote, "Been under house arrest for 2.5 years. The amount of water, soap bars, paper towels used is very sad," unquote. He told one psychiatrist after another that he couldn't stop thinking about death.
By 1994, when Paul was 20 years old, he began showing signs of quote-unquote chronic violence. And I don't know, it just bothers me when people go straight to brown or black person, chronic violence, or
right.
It's icky to me. But the Merhige family was not unfamiliar with mental illness and familial violence. And that's because in 1973, the year before Paul was born, Paul's aunt on his father's side murdered her ex-husband and their 2 children before completing suicide.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
wild.
I don't think we've seen that in any of the early life cases we've done before. But that's heavy.
Yeah.
That is wild.
That is wild.
Yeah, it's a lot for one family, for sure.
Yeah.
So now let's get into the timeline. Take us there, Beth.
Between 1994 and 2006, Merhige lived with his parents, Michael and Carol Merhige, in Miami. and he was financially dependent on them. During that time, the police were called to the Merhige's house at least 10 times due to Merhige's violent and aggressive threats and acts. And I think that's what they meant by chronic violence.
Okay.
He made verbal threats, physically attacked people, and, quote, discharged or threatened to discharge a firearm, unquote.
Ooh.
And I guess I should also mention that I think the quote of chronic violence was from court records.
Ah, okay. So a lawyer or a judge said it.
Yes, said that. Yeah.
Okay. So there were certain members of his family who were repeatedly threatened. One was his uncle, Dr. Antoine Joseph, Carol Merhige's brother, who had apparently treated Merhige at one point. That's interesting. You can do that? Treat your family members?
What is it? His nephew.
Okay. Merhige believed that Dr. Joseph, quote, somehow caused him illness, injury, or damage, unquote.
I wonder if, maybe he was sick at some point and he, who knows, prescribed him some antibiotics or something like that.
Yeah, it could have been anything.
Yeah. Merhige often refused to take his medications. That's not good.
Mm-hmm.
He attempted suicide multiple times, and he routinely threatened to kill one of his sisters. As you might imagine, this caused some strained relations within the family.
Yeah, my. So Merhige accused his sister Carla of trying to kill him, alleging that she broke his bedroom door down, began screaming at him, and spit in his face before wrestling him to the floor and threatening to kill him.
I wonder if any of this happened. Like, did any of it happen?
I wonder too, and the unfortunate thing is
We'll
never
never
know.
Yeah. He also alleged that his family members were aware of his mental health issues, but would purposely harass him. He claimed that his family members wanted to make him worse and never overcome his illness.
Interesting, but he also didn't want to take his medication.
Right. He didn't want to do anything
Yeah.
to overcome his illness either.
Yeah.
Or, maybe he thought the medications were making him worse. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I will say for myself, because I suffer from mental illness. And sometimes when I go off, I know I'm going off the rails. I can see it. And it's embarrassing when other people can notice it too. But in my head, I can fix it. I can get it back on track. I don't need to do it the way they say to do it. I got this.
I can do it.
No problem. Mom, watch this. And anyway, it doesn't work out that way as I know
take
from
your meds.
Yes, exactly.
and this is from somebody who also takes meds.
Yes.
So we all get it.
Yeah, we understand the inclination to be like, I don't need this stuff. But you do. So Paul's family tried to help him. His medical history included stays at McLean Hospital's OCD Institute in Boston, UCLA's Neuropsychiatric Hospital. Wow, so he was coast to coast getting help.
Yep.
And Westwood Institute for Anxiety and Disorders in Los Angeles. His family also had him involuntarily confined under the state's Baker Act twice.
So they really tried to help him.
Really tried. Really tried. Yeah, I can see that.
But eventually it just became too much. Merhige became violent and cold, especially towards his sisters. His parents decided to move him out to a condo. But after being physically separated from his family, Merhige's relationship with them further deteriorated, and he became deeply resentful.
I just don't know what else they could have done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's an adult.
Right.
So there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. And are we going to get to the part about how they gave him thousands of dollars a month to support him?
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay.
No, actually.
Oh.
It's alluded to, but so what? They gave him thousands of dollars a month to live on? Or?
Yeah, for him to be able to survive.
Right.
Because he couldn't work.
Right.
And he was on disability. So his parents.
So they got him a condo and they gave him thousands of dollars a month. And then I was surprised he had a car. So he did have a car. So they bought him a car. Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
So he told a therapist in 1998 that he felt that his family was obligated to take care of him and thought he should be able to move back home because he firmly believed that his family should, quote, suffer with him, unquote.
Now that's gross.
It does feel a little bit
Narcissistic
and also delusional, like inaccurate.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody who has a family member wants to suffer with you. They want to help you.
You know, why would you want your family members to suffer?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's not good.
Mm-mm.
In April of 1999, he attempted suicide by shooting himself in the chest, which lacerated one of his lungs.
Wow.
Afterward, his father, Michael, visited local gun shops and begged them not to sell a gun to his son. Merhige tried suicide again in 2005, swallowing all the pills left in his cache of psychotropic medicines.
I also want to have some compassion for the fact that he suffering.
Was miserable.
He is suffering.
Right.
In the spring of 2006, Karla Merhige took out a restraining order against Merhige, her brother, after she said he got in her face and threatened to slit her throat, telling her, quote, "This time I'm not going to go by myself," unquote, referring to his recent suicide attempt.
She said these kinds of threats happened on a regular basis, and she sought the court's help to, quote, "prevent further incidents of violence and harassment," unquote. In her request for a restraining order against him, Karla also claimed that her brother refused to take his prescribed medications.
But despite her fears, Karla Merhige voluntarily withdrew her request for a restraining order on May 12, 2006, just 3 weeks after filing it. In one article, it was said that she withdrew it because he threatened to kill her if she did not.
Yikes. Michael and Carol Merhige regularly attended a yearly extended family Thanksgiving gathering, but Merhige did not. In fact, in 2008, when Dr. Antoine Joseph and his wife Raymond hosted, Dr. Joseph told the Merhiges that they would actually cancel the dinner if they brought their son with them.
Wow.
They really did not want him there.
Right.
And with good reason.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You need an oxygen mask for yourself first if things go down on an airplane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts, guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place. For changes big and small. Loud or quiet. Find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Ohio is a land of mystery, from missing shipwrecks and lost treasure beneath her surface to strange phenomenon slicing through her skies. From myths that have evolved around historic events and people to the unsolved murders and disappearances that keep her communities wondering what happened. Find Ohio Mysteries on your favorite podcast app, and let's explore the inexplicable. OhioMysteries.com.
In 2009, Merhige was 35 years old and living in a condo in Miami where he had become extremely reclusive, avoiding contact with others and refusing to allow anyone other than a housekeeper to enter the condo. The housekeeper monitored Merhige's actions and reported to his parents that he had ceased his mental health treatment and had stopped taking his prescribed medications.
Michael and Carol Merhige were invited to a Thanksgiving gathering in 2009, which was being hosted in Jupiter, Florida, at the home of Muriel Sitton, Dr. Joseph's daughter, and her husband, Jim Sitton.
Thanksgiving is a national holiday celebrated primarily in the United States and Canada. In the U.S., Thanksgiving is observed on the fourth Thursday of November. In Canada, it is celebrated on the second Monday of October. Its roots trace back to harvest festivals and expressions of gratitude for blessings received over the past year.
Yeah, harvest festivals like pagans would have, you know?
What is a pagan? Is that somebody who's not a Christian?
No.
What's a pagan? I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Are we talking about pagan, like the fun kind? Pagan?
Oh, no.
Okay. What's a pagan? I don't know what a pagan is.
So pagans, they had a religion. It was like before Christianity or before Christianity swept the world, you know?
Okay.
It was a polytheistic religion.
Oh.
So, multiple
gods. I got it. Okay.
And it was more about nature. And I guess Wicca is probably a pagan religion.
Okay.
But it was like what the religions were in like Ireland and Scotland before, and lots of other countries too, before Christians took over.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Now I understand.
I probably described that really badly. So
no, but whenever I hear it, I don't know what it means, and I just in my head, I just move on to the next thing.
So a lot of our holidays have pagan roots, like Christmas using evergreens in the house. Evergreens were a symbol of life. And also like Easter, the Easter eggs. Eggs are a symbol of fertility. So they had like a lot of symbolism like that. And so when the Christians were trying to convert everybody, they would take the pagan holidays and turn them Christian so that the pagans would join them. Yeah.
Whoa. Diabolical, but also... Wow.
Effective, apparently.
Yeah. Wow. And here we all are like,
yeah, here we are, dyeing eggs for Easter. It has nothing to do with Christianity at all.
Serious? Wow. Oh my God. You just opened my eyes and my mind. Thank you. I love learning.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing. So anyway, in the U.S., Thanksgiving's origin story, or a fairy tale, if you will,
thank you,
is that in 1620, a group of English pilgrims settled in Plymouth, and their first winter was brutal, and nearly half of the pilgrims died. That spring, the local Native Americans taught them critical survival skills, and after their first successful harvest, the pilgrims held a feast to celebrate and invited the Native Americans who helped them to share the meal with them.
Share a meal, but not give their land back. Anyway,
No.
The traditions and meanings behind Thanksgiving have evolved over time, but are centered around themes of gratitude, family, and community. Here at Fruitloops, Thanksgiving is also a time to reflect on historical complexities, such as the impact of colonization on indigenous peoples.
It can be a joyous occasion for families to reunite, reconnect, catch up, and feast on traditional favorites like mashed potatoes.
I'm all about the mac
green
and
bean
cheese.
casserole.
Yeah. Beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes,
Yeah, there you go.
grams, hogs, logs, beans, greens, potatoes, chicken, turkeys, you name it. Sorry. I had to do it before the episode was over. I'm done now.
But for some, Thanksgiving can be fraught and stressful. Yeah, families fight. It can be no fun.
Yeah.
And many indigenous people consider it a day of mourning because it represents the beginning of European colonization in America.
Yeah. Culture Corner bars. Thanks, Beth.
You're welcome.
Anyway, Merhige expressed interest in the Thanksgiving gathering at the sit-ins, and he repeatedly asked for the details, including who would be there. That's a very Black question. Who all going to be there?
Who's going to be there?
Specifically, he asked whether his sisters and his uncle, Dr. Joseph, would be there. But he never committed to attending, and his parents never alerted Jim and Muriel Sitton that he might be coming.
In the weeks before Thanksgiving, Merhige withdrew $12,000 in cash. $12,000.
Wow.
And discreetly spent $2,000 on at least 4 guns and some ammunition in 2 Broward County gun shops. He even asked for a scope to be attached to a bolt-action Remington 700 rifle. He said that he wanted to use it for hunting.
Yeah, I just think that's, remember his dad went to all the gun shops that he could
and told
to
him
say,
not to
please
sell.
don't, please.
Yeah.
So before Thanksgiving, Carol Merhige emailed a relative about their plans for the holiday, writing, quote, "Everyone is going up, including Paul. It will be interesting to say the least," unquote.
So on Thanksgiving Day in 2009, which was November 26th, Michael and Carol Merhige went to the home of Muriel and Jim Sitton for Thanksgiving dinner. Also in attendance were Merhige's sisters Carla Merhige, who was a real estate agent, and Lisa Knight, who was 8 months pregnant, and Lisa's husband, Patrick Knight.
In total, there were approximately 17 extended family members at the dinner. Paul Merhige had not been invited, but he called his parents that evening to announce that he was on his way. Afterwards, Carol Merhige remarked to her daughter Lisa, quote, "I hope he doesn't come and kill us all tonight," unquote.
Yikes!
Yeah, that's quite, wow.
Yeah.
I don't have words.
Lisa replied, quote, "Mom, it came to my mind, but don't say that to Dad because Dad would get upset that we had such ideas," unquote.
When
like
you know
Dad's
the
kinda
end of the
delusional.
story, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like my hands are sweaty. Like
Yeah.
I know what's going to happen. I'm very anxious.
Yeah.
So Muriel Sitton was shocked to hear that her cousin Paul was on his way. Now, if you recall, the year before when her parents, Dr. Antoine Joseph and Raymond Joseph, were hosting Thanksgiving, her father said he would cancel the dinner before allowing him to attend.
Merhige arrived at these Sittons 90 minutes late, joining them just as they were sitting down to dinner. He didn't eat anything and just sat there quietly. Jim and Muriel's 6-year-old daughter, Michaela, had written on cards how thankful she was for her family and strung them up on a clothesline.
Oh, I love that. So beautiful.
Yeah.
And then after dinner, the family gathered around a large grand piano and sang traditional Christmas songs. Then Michaela got up and she sang some songs to practice for a performance of the Nutcracker that she was to be in the next day. So this is, I mean, the vibes are up at this Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And she also recited Psalm 100 before going to bed.
Merhige sat calmly through the 3-hour holiday gathering. There were no arguments, warnings, or red flags. But at some point after 9 p.m., Paul went out to his car and was gone for about 20 minutes. When he came back inside, he had a gun and he started shooting.
Paul didn't say anything before he started firing. First, he shot his aunt, Raymond Joseph, 76, in the shoulder. And while her husband, Dr. Joseph, tried to stop the bleeding, Paul shot her again, point blank in the chest.
His gun jammed when he tried to shoot Dr. Joseph in the head, but he continued on, fatally shooting both of his sisters, Carla and Lisa, who was also pregnant. He also shot his brother-in-law, Patrick Knight, 37, and a cousin, Clifford Gabarra, 52. Of note, he didn't shoot his parents.
At one point, witnesses heard Merhige utter, quote, "I have been waiting 20 years to do this," unquote.
Wow.
Yeah. Chilling.
Finally, he went into little Michaela's room and shot her as she lay in her bed. He came out of the room and then almost immediately went right back in and shot her again. In total, he shot her 5 times in the head, hip, and back.
Seconds later, Merhige walked out of the house, got into his blue Toyota Camry, and drove away. Now we're going to get into the investigation and the arrest. So Merhige's cousin, Clifford Gabarra, was treated for a graze wound and released from the hospital. Merhige's brother-in-law, Patrick Knight, who had been shot but survived, remained in a coma.
Merhige went on the run. On December 2nd, he checked into the Edgewater Lodge in the Florida Keys under a fake name, paying in cash in advance. He kept people out of his room by insisting on cleaning it himself.
As an intense nationwide manhunt was underway to find him, he sat holed up in his motel room, eating from a stockpile of canned food and water, and rarely going outside. Authorities plastered South Florida with wanted posters with Merhige's face and the license plate number of his car.
However, he had changed out the license plates, using old ones from a previous car he had owned. He also attempted to hide his vehicle by covering it with a car cover.
Interesting. There was no movement until January 2nd, 2010, when Merhige was featured on America's Most Wanted. The owner of the motel saw the episode, recognized Merhige, and called the police.
When U.S. Marshals burst into his motel room, Merhige surrendered without resisting. Police took him into custody and the 38-day nationwide manhunt was over. In the motel room, they found materials suggesting that suicide had been on his mind.
Patrick Knight remained in a coma for 4 months. He awoke in March of 2010 to the terrible news that his pregnant wife, Lisa, Mirage's sister, was dead.
That's sad.
Mm-hmm.
Months after his arrest, Paul called his father from the Palm Beach County Jail, begging him for forgiveness. Michael Merhige replied, quote, "We have nothing. You have nothing. It's a total nightmare. Our lives have changed forever." Unquote.
Man. So now let's get into the trial. Prosecutors originally sought the death penalty for Paul Merhige. This is Florida. But eventually offered him a plea deal. The plea agreement came after Mirage's attorney filed a notice that they might use an insanity defense. Amy Singer, a jury consultant, said that Mirage's history of mental illness would have made it difficult to get a death recommendation.
And in October of 2011, Merhige, then 37, pleaded guilty and was ordered to serve 7 consecutive life sentences in prison. As part of the agreement, Merhige agreed to waive his rights to appeal.
The plea deal enraged Michaela's father, Jim Sitton, who begged the judge not to accept the deal, even falling to his knees in the courtroom. Dr. Antoine Joseph, Jim Sitton's father-in-law, and Raymond Joseph's husband also had little sympathy for Merhige, saying he would have enjoyed seeing him put to death.
Mirage's parents said that they supported the deal, but Carol Merhige said her life was ruined after losing her 2 daughters and a son who was in jail. Patrick Knight, whose wife was killed, said he agreed with the plea, but called Merhige a fat loser who was jealous and angry.
Whoa!
Yeah, he was mad.
Yeah, he was furious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into our takes, but hey, man.
Well, calling him a fat loser probably,
Oh, yeah, that wasn't great. But
yeah,
I understand.
Like I said,
from.
he was very angry. His wife was killed. She was pregnant with their first child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get into where are they now? Well, I'll tell you, the case caused a huge rift in the family, both emotionally and legally. In 2 separate lawsuits, Michael and Carol Merhige were sued by Patrick Knight and Jim and Muriel Sitton, who asserted the couple was negligent by inviting Paul to dinner.
Patrick Knight claimed that his former in-laws were responsible for the death of his pregnant wife, Lisa, who was also the Mirage's daughter. Jim and Muriel Sitton said that not only did Michael and Carol Merhige know that their son was planning to attend the family gathering at the Sittons, uninvited and unannounced, but that they had some sense he might kill people that day and purposely chose not to tell them.
I've never been sued, but I know that it can be traumatizing just to get those papers.
Yeah, very stressful.
Yeah, but to get the papers and have them say, you are responsible, you as the parent of this person are responsible, I cannot imagine how, the gut punch that would
be
bring on top of the tragedy that everybody already went through.
Right.
So the Sittons also alleged that the Mirages had an opportunity to stop their son before he killed their 6-year-old daughter, Michaela, but chose not to.
Muriel Sitton thought that Merhige didn't plan on killing Michaela, but became jealous when he saw the family delight in her singing. Quote, "He tried to snuff out the light. He came into the baby's room. He saw her innocence and he walked in and he purposefully killed her." Unquote.
The Mirages then filed a countersuit against the Sittons in 2011, alleging the Sittons were to blame for allowing Paul at the dinner. The Mirages also claim that Jim Sitton defamed them with unfair and untrue statements about the couple by saying they invited Paul to the dinner without notifying other members of the family and knowing his reputation for violence.
Not good.
No, it's like Mirage's acts are the gift that unfortunately keeps on giving for the people who survive this. Yeah.
We interrupt this program program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
The trial court dismissed the complaints by Patrick Knight and the sit-ins, ruling that parents can't be held responsible for the acts of their adult children. And I don't know what happened to the countersuit, but I suspect that it was dropped.
Yeah,
I think it was probably just because they were being sued.
Mm-hmm.
Despite Mirage's mental illness, his parents weren't his legal guardians. So the sit-ins appealed, but that was also dismissed.
There was one tiny bright spot in all of this. During Mirage's trial, the sit-ins announced that Muriel was pregnant with their second child. And Muriel said, quote, "We're having a girl, but it is very bittersweet. There will always be someone missing," unquote. They have since had another little girl and are now a family of 4. That's beautiful.
That is a nice part.
Yeah, tiny bright spot.
They started a foundation bearing Michaela's name to carry on her love of dance and music, and an annual concert was started in her honor. Had she lived, Michaela would have been all grown up by now.
Yeah. Man. So now we are going to get into our thoughts and our takeaways on this case. What do you think about this OG of true crime?
Well, obviously, his mental illness was like the biggest factor
For sure. Yeah.
in what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder how much the story about his aunt committing familicide affected him as he was growing up. Like, how much was he told about it?
Right.
Did he start obsessing about it and decided that he wanted to do that too?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to say that most people with depression and OCD never hurt anyone.
Thank you.
And I wonder if something else was going on. We kind of talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he seemed pretty narcissistic. And I wonder if there was something else.
Yeah.
Some other mental illness in the stew.
Sure. Yeah. Yes. I was leaning there too, but I was waiting for you to comment because you know more about this stuff.
So they said he was the golden boy growing up, which probably caused him to resent his sisters later on because their roles were kind of reversed. Suddenly, they're the golden girls.
Yeah.
But he also refused to take his meds and wasn't participating in his treatment. So he wasn't really doing anything to help himself. And you can't make someone participate in their treatment if they don't want to do it.
Right.
There's not much you can do. And I know this from experience because of my brother who did not participate in his treatment either.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, we were talking about how the parents were taking care of him and giving him thousands of dollars, a car, a condo.
Yeah.
I thought about how the parents could have given him an option like, hey, you need to do in treatment or get no support, something like that.
Yeah. That's what Van Donderen does on the intervention show.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
A&E.
Right. I don't know. Being a parent is really hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wonder if they were afraid to take away support because that's when Michael's sister murdered her family when she felt like she was losing everything. Yeah. So I wonder if Michael was like, yeah, I don't want to do anything to make him feel like he's not supported.
Right. Because his parents experienced that tragedy, right?
Right.
I mean, young Paul maybe learned about it, but didn't go through it. They went through it. And I'm sure did everything that they could to prevent that from happening
Something
again.
like that happening.
Yeah.
And that's all I got.
Oh, okay. Well, I really appreciate your takes.
Thanks.
Because I believe that you are always right about everything. Yeah, same thoughts, essentially. 2 instances of familicide in one family is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Clearly the mental illness, and as I said before, or as you said, that not everybody who has a mental illness hurts other people. And, you know, the golden boy, but wait, the golden boy who waited 20 years to kill his sisters and then kill a little girl in her sleep is, I can't even like wrap my head around all on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
What? And I think I understand his parents supporting him. After that exchange you and I just had about how they wanted to do everything they could to prevent this from happening again, like from them from having to experience it and for it happening to somebody else in their family.
Right.
I just was thinking about, though, how maybe their support, I don't know how to say this and I don't want to say it to harm anybody, but could their support have been seen as enabling or crippling him in some way?
Yeah, I think so.
I was just watching this documentary and an analogy was used about how, baby sea turtles, because we love animals.
Yeah.
When they hatch, they have to crawl from their eggs to the sea by themselves.
To the sea, yeah.
You want to help them because they're so adorable. But if you do, you're going to kill that turtle because they won't be strong enough to survive the sea by themselves.
Yeah.
So I kind of had that thought about, despite, I know that they did everything.
I mean,
they
he
could.
didn't have to do anything. He didn't have to because they took care of him. So
Yeah, he had all the tools available to him. And at some point, I don't know what else they could have done. I really believe that they did everything.
Yeah. This is all hindsight. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be my next point. Like,
right.
This is all in hindsight. There appear, to us as people who were not there to be able to see, well, maybe if this happened and maybe if that didn't happen.
Maybe if you did that.
Yeah.
But we weren't there. We weren't
to say?
in their shoes.
Quien sabe? Who knows? But I think the important thing to remember about this horrific, baffling case is that Michaela, Lisa, Carla, and Raymond lost their lives.
Yeah.
And Patrick and Clifford survived something unimaginable.
Right.
And an entire family is forever changed due to these horrific events on what is traditionally a loving, happy night.
Yeah.
Or a day or time of year.
Right.
And so
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Gobble, motherfucking gobble. Listen, let us know what you think about the case. Beth, where can the people find us?
Our website is fruitloopspod.com, and we use Fruit Loops Pod for all of our social media.
This is a weekly podcast, and new episodes drop every Thursday. So until next time, look alive, y'all. It's crazy out there.
I'm an American vigilante. I have a question for you. What would you do if someone you cared about was abducted, taken from you? Would you call me? Would you care about how I got them back? Download American Vigilante now.
From DNA testing to the Dixie Mafia, Crime Capsule brings you new stories of true crime in American history. I'm your host, Benjamin Morris. Join us for exclusive interviews with authors from Arcadia Publishing, writing the hottest books on the most chilling stories of our country's past. You can find us wherever you get your favorite podcasts or on evergreenpodcasts.com. Crime Capsule. History so interesting, it's criminal.